Sir, the inner secret. The lifting does not begin in your body. It begins in your Sir, the inner secret. This is the quiet place in you that still knows Allah before your tongue can form a word. When sujood becomes real, that hidden place moves first. This is why the change can feel sudden. One moment your chest feels crowded. The next moment something opens. You do not always know why. You only know the pressure is not sitting on you the same way anymore. Ibn Arabi does not treat this as magic. He treats it as recognition. When the servant lowers the head, the heart sometimes stops fighting its Lord for a few breaths. In that pause, mercy enters where resistance used to sit. That is what many people miss. They think the relief comes because they pressed their forehead down hard enough, cried deeply enough, or found the right words. But the secret of sujood is not pressure. It is surrender. The body goes low so the hidden self can stop pretending to be high. You know this place if you have ever reached sujood too tired to perform for Allah. No polished duas, no beautiful voice, no long speech, just a forehead on the ground and a pain you can no longer carry with style. That is often when the door opens. The one who lives near this station does not always look spiritual from the outside. This person may still struggle, they may still break, they may still fear tomorrow. But inside sujood, something honest appears. For a few seconds, they stop managing their image before Allah. That honesty has a feeling. It feels like the room grows wider. It feels like your chest is no longer locked from the inside. It feels like a knot loosens without your hand touching it. Sometimes it comes with tears, sometimes with silence, sometimes with a strange calm that almost scares you. The trap here is sweet. You feel relief once, and then you start chasing the feeling instead of the one who gave it. The ego can kneel too. It can turn sujood into a method for emotional comfort. It can say, I know how to get that peaceful state back. Then prayer becomes a hunt for sensation. That is the first lie. The sign is not that you felt light. The sign is what the light does to you after. Does it make you softer with Allah? Does it make you less demanding, less dramatic, less proud? Or does it make you crave another spiritual experience so you can feel special again? You must test the relief by its fruit. Real relief leaves humility behind it. False relief leaves self-importance. The exit from this stage is simple, but hard. Stop asking first, did I feel something? Ask, did I become more true? If your heaviness lifts and your need to control also weakens, the sujood carried a real opening. If your heaviness lifts but your self remains at the center, then you received ease, but not yet depth. That is why Ibn Arabi keeps pulling the seeker inward. He is not impressed by moments. He looks for what those moments unveil. A passing sweetness means little if the secret heart stays asleep. Farq, sacred discernment. Farq means discernment, the power to tell one thing from another. This is the next truth you need. Not every lightness in sujood means the same thing. Some relief comes because Allah draws you near. Some relief comes because you finally emptied pain you were hiding. Some relief comes because the nafs, the lower self, enjoys spiritual drama. These do not feel identical, even if they all feel lighter than before. Nearness has a clean taste. It leaves you smaller, steadier, quieter. You rise from sujood with less noise in the soul. You do not need to tell anyone. You do not even need to explain it to yourself. You simply feel placed back under Allah and strangely safe there. Release feels different. Release is still mercy, but it is not the same as nearness. Sometimes you enter sujood carrying grief, fear, shame, or mental exhaustion. Your tears break the pressure. The system inside you calms down. Your breathing deepens. The body lets go. This is real, and you should thank Allah for it, but do not confuse healing with arrival. Then there is the most dangerous kind. It is not always evil. It is just mixed. You feel light, but the light feeds your image. You start thinking, my prayer is changing. I must be chosen. I must be advancing. The nafs loves any feeling it can use as a mirror. This is where many sincere people get delayed, not because they sinned greatly, because they interpreted themselves too quickly. The person stuck here becomes a collector of states. They remember which surah made them cry, which night prayer felt deep, which sajda felt electric. They begin to measure faith by intensity. If the prayer feels heavy again, they panic. They think they lost Allah. Often they only lost a sensation. That panic is the trap. It trains you to trust feelings more than truth. So how do you discern? Look at what remains when the feeling fades. If the lightness makes obedience easier, it was a gift with direction. If it only gave you a moment and left no clearer turning toward Allah, then it may have been release without transformation. Still mercy, but a different mercy. This is why heaviness itself is not always a bad sign. Sometimes Allah leaves the weight in place because the weight is telling the truth about you. You are still clinging, still bargaining, still trying to descend with your forehead while your ego stays standing. And that brings you to the harder question. What if the sujood that feels empty is not rejected at all? What if it is the beginning of the real opening? Qabd, the contraction. Qabd means contraction, the inward tightening of the soul. This is the sujood most people fear. You go down, but the heart does not open. You say the words, but they feel dry. You wait for relief, and nothing moves. The heaviness stays where it is. This station feels like absence. Your chest may feel hard. Your thoughts may grow louder. Old shame may rise. You may feel almost embarrassed before Allah because you expected softness and found a wall instead. Some people leave prayer at this point thinking they were denied. Many were being purified. Ibn Arabi teaches that not every veil is punishment. Some veils protect the servant from illusion. If Allah gave you sweetness every time you bowed, you might begin to worship the sweetness. So there are prayers where He withholds the taste and leaves only the truth. The truth is often this: you still want control. Qabd exposes that hunger. It shows you how much of your prayer was a hidden deal. I will come low, and you will make me feel held. I will cry, and you will answer quickly. I will surrender, but let me still keep the outcome I want. Contraction burns these bargains. That is why this station feels so sharp. It is not only pain, it is pain without reward. At least that is how it seems. But that is the precise medicine. When no feeling arrives, your intention stands alone. Now you find out whether you came to Allah or came to the comfort Allah sometimes gives. The one who lives here is not always weak. Often this person is serious. They still pray, they still bow, they still try. But inwardly they feel shut out. They worry that everyone else is tasting faith, while they are only carrying it like a stone. If that is you, hear this clearly. The stone may be your gift. Some souls are softened by sweetness. Others are made true by weight. A heavy sujood can strip you more deeply than a light one. It can take away your ability to admire yourself in prayer. It can leave you with nothing but need, and need is a cleaner door than self-admiration. The trap here is despair. Not loud despair, quiet despair. The kind that says, nothing is happening, my heart is dead, I am only repeating motions. This despair can become a dark pride. You start building an identity around your dryness. You stop expecting mercy because disappointment feels safer than hope. That too is ego. Another trap hides nearby. You start trying to fix the dryness by force. Longer duos, more tears, more late nights, more pressure, more self-analysis. But a heart in Kaab does not open by being bullied. The fist cannot relax because another fist commanded it. The exit is patient truth. Stay in the prayer without demanding a taste. Let the heaviness tell you what you still worship. Let the silence expose what you were using religion to get. Say the words even when they feel bare. Bow even when the sky seems closed. That kind of staying is itself a form of nearness. This is where many seekers turn back. They think the closed door means go away. Often it means come without your conditions. And when you do, another station begins. Bast, the expansion. Bast means expansion, the widening of the heart after contraction. This is not just feeling better, it is what happens when resistance loses its grip. After a season of hard sujud, a moment comes when the same forehead touches the same ground, but the ground feels different, not because the floor changed, because you did. Expansion feels clean. The body softens, the breath settles, the mind stops grabbing. You are not trying to produce a state anymore. Then the state arrives on its own, not as a prize, but as mercy. This is the lightness many people speak about, but now you can name it more carefully. It is not random relief. It is often the widening that comes after honest surrender. You stopped negotiating. You stopped performing. You stopped measuring. So the heart had room again. Bast has a special beauty. It can make prayer feel intimate. You rise from sujud, and the world looks less sharp. Your problem may still exist, but it no longer owns your whole field of sight. Fear shrinks. Trust grows. You begin to feel that Allah is handling what your mind could never hold together. The person here becomes calmer without becoming lazy. They do not need to rush every answer. They do not need to turn every delay into a crisis. They move with more adab, sacred courtesy. Their speech loses some heat. Their reactions lose some violence. Even their grief carries less rebellion. That is a strong sign. Real expansion does not only make prayer sweet, it makes character gentler. If your sujud gives peace but leaves your pride untouched, something is still mixed. But if the peace makes you kinder, less sharp, less eager to win every small fight, then the mercy reached deeper than emotion. Still, this station also has a trap. Expansion can make you careless. You begin to think the opening will stay because you finally understood something. You start trusting your state instead of Allah. Gratitude fades into assumption. Then the heart slowly hardens again, and you do not know why. Another trap is subtle. You begin to look down on dry people. You may never say it out loud, but inside you think, if they prayed like I pray, they would know this calm. The ego knows how to wear white clothes. It knows how to speak softly. It knows how to hide in spiritual refinement. That is why Bast must be guarded by gratitude and fear. Not fear of punishment only. Fear of losing humility. The exit from this station is not to leave it. It is to carry it correctly. Thank Allah without claiming the state. Enjoy the mercy without making it your identity. Let the widening teach dependence, not possession. Say, this opening is yours, not mine. That sentence protects the heart. And now the deeper layer appears. Some people feel relief in sujud because pain left them. Others feel relief because something lower in them died for a moment. Those two can look the same from outside, but inside they are worlds apart. Fana al-dawa, the fading of your claim. Fana al-dawa means the fading of your claim over your own life. This is where sujud stops being a place where you ask Allah to bless your plan. It becomes the place where your grip on the plan starts to break. This station is deeper than relief. At the earlier levels, you still feel that your burden belongs to you. Your pain is your pain. Your future is your future. Your fear is your fear. You bring all of it into sujood and hope Allah will help you carry it. Here, something stranger begins. You start to see that even the burden was never yours in the first place. That sight changes the soul. When this happens, the heaviness does not only lift because you feel comforted. It lifts because ownership weakens. The heart stops saying, "How will I manage all this?" and starts saying, "This was never in my hands." The body may still tremble, the problem may still stand, but the claim softens. That softening feels like freedom. The one who reaches this station often does not look dramatic. They may look ordinary. They still go to work. They still answer messages. They still feel loss and stress. But inside, they no longer stand at the center of every storm. They are less tangled in the word my timing, my image, my outcome, my answer, my pain. This is one of the hidden meanings of sujud. The forehead meets dust, so the self remembers what it is not. It is not the lord of its own story. It is not the keeper of every result. It is not the author of rescue. Ibn Arabi keeps pressing this truth in different forms. Nearness grows when false possession dies. Now you can see why some sujud feels light, in a way words cannot explain. It is not only that Allah soothed you, it is that for a moment, He removed you from the throne you secretly sat on. That removal feels like rest. The trap here is subtle and dangerous. You begin to speak the language of surrender while still protecting your hidden demand. You say, "I leave it to Allah," but inside you still mean, "As long as He gives me what I was hoping for." That is not surrender. That is polite control. Another trap is using surrender to avoid your duty. You tell yourself, "Allah will handle it," when what you really mean is, "I do not want the hard step." Real tawakkul, trust in Allah, does not make you passive. It removes your worship of outcomes, not your work. The exit is plain honesty. In sujud, tell Allah the truth before you tell Him your wish. Say the thing under the thing. I am not only afraid of losing this, I am afraid of becoming nobody without it. I am not only asking for relief, I am asking to stay in charge. When you tell the deeper truth, the deeper chain begins to break, and when the claim weakens, another mercy appears. You do not just feel lighter, you become easier to lead. Ubudiyya, the station of servanthood. Ubudiyya means servanthood, but not in a cold sense. It means you stand in your true size before Allah. You are not crushed there. You are placed there. This is the station where sujud becomes beautiful, because you are no longer trying to be more than a servant. This is why the heaviness can lift so fully. Much of what exhausts you comes from pretending to hold what only Allah can hold. You try to be the fixer, the defender, the planner, the healer, the one who keeps everything from falling. Even your prayer can become another place where you try to manage heaven. Ubudiyya ends that performance. In this station, you bow as a servant, not as a negotiator. You ask, but you do not demand. You hope, but you do not accuse. You feel pain, but you stop turning pain into a case against Allah. Your heart begins to rest in the dignity of being held by the one who never needed your strength. That dignity is part of the sign. The person here carries a rare steadiness. They are not numb. They can still cry in sujud. They can still beg. But their begging has a dab. There is courtesy in it. There is surrender in it. Even their sorrow has a kind of beauty because it is no longer fighting the hand that shaped them. You can feel the difference in such a person. They do not rush to explain every decree. They do not act as if they understand every delay. But they have stopped treating Allah as absent whenever life hurts. Their worship becomes deeper than their mood. Their obedience becomes less fragile. This is the kind of soul people trust, not because they speak in grand words, because something in them has become unforced. They are easier to be around, less hungry for praise, less eager to control, less likely to collapse when life changes direction. Sujud has taught them proportion. Allah is great, they are His. That truth begins to heal many wounds at once. The trap here is spiritual identity. You begin to like being the surrendered one. You become attached to the image of humility. You enjoy the calm, the softness, the language, the wise tone. The nafs is patient. It can rebuild itself inside your servanthood and call the new building piety. That is why true servants keep returning to the ground. They do not graduate from need. The exit is continued poverty before Allah. Fajr, holy need, protects ubudiyya. You remember that you do not stand here because you mastered prayer. You stand here because mercy keeps letting you return. You do not own your calm. You do not own your tears. You do not even own your next sujud. That remembrance keeps the station alive. And now the map becomes sharp. If your heaviness lifts in sujud, the real sign is not the feeling itself. The sign is whether your claim weakens and your servanthood grows. That is the line between a passing emotional release and a real opening from Allah. But you still need one final image. You need to see the human being who carries this truth in full, and then you need to measure yourself against it without lying. The human being shaped by this truth does not float through life untouched. That is not the aspiration. The aspiration is much rarer. It is a person whose heart has learned where to put its weight. You can see it in the way they enter prayer. They do not rush in like a person chasing relief. They enter like a person returning to the only place that tells the truth. When they stand, there is presence. When they bow, there is honesty. When they go into sujud, they do not perform pain. They hand it over. This person still feels grief. They still lose things. They still wait longer than they want. But they are no longer broken by every delay because they do not read every delay as abandonment. Something in them has settled. They know that being held by Allah is deeper than being spared by life. That makes them strong in a quiet way. Their words grow simpler. Their anger cools faster. Their fear does not disappear, but it stops leading. They become harder to flatter and harder to threaten because less of their identity depends on what people give or take. Sujud has taught them a secret freedom. They are closest to the ground when they are least owned by the world. They do not speak of surrender like a slogan. You can see it in how they respond when life turns against them. They still make effort. They still think. They still plan. But they do not fall apart when the plan breaks. They bend, then return. Their forehead has touched the earth enough times to remember who carries whom. This person is also gentle with other people, not weak, gentle. They know what it means to be heavy inside, so they do not rush to judge every rough soul. Their mercy grows because their pride shrinks. Prayer has not made them dramatic. It has made them spacious. That is what many viewers actually want, even if they do not name it that way. Not just a better feeling in prayer, not just tears, not just a sign. You want to become a person who cannot be owned so easily by fear, pressure, delay, and self-importance. You want a heart that lowers itself before Allah and rises lighter without needing the world to change first. That is the aspiration. Now you need the mirror, not a soft mirror, a true one. You need to ask where you are standing when you go into sujud. Do you enter sujud mostly to feel better or to become more true before Allah? When the heaviness lifts, do you become softer and more obedient, or do you become impressed with your own spiritual state? If sujud feels dry for a week, do you stay steady, or do you begin to think Allah has moved away? Are you asking Allah for help, or are you trying to get Him to bless the life you refuse to release? When prayer feels deep, do you thank Allah quietly, or do you start building an identity around being the one who feels things? Is your pain making you more honest in front of Allah, or is it making you more attached to your own story? When you rise from sujood, is your grip on people, outcomes, and timing weaker than before, or exactly the same? And this question may be the sharpest of all. If Allah removed the feeling but kept the prayer, would you still come down to the ground with the same sincerity? Answer those slowly. They expose more than emotion. They expose allegiance. You do not need to answer all of them with confidence. In fact, the honest soul often cannot. But one or two will sting. One or two will show you where your worship is mixed, where your surrender still has conditions, where your relief matters more to you than your truth. That sting is mercy. Do not run from it. A painful recognition in prayer is better than a beautiful illusion. A hard truth in sujood can save you from years of chasing states that never changed your heart. This is why the heavy prayer still matters. Sometimes the real sign is not that the burden lifted, it is that the mask fell. And once the mask falls, you can finally begin correctly. The next step is not a grand method. It is small, exact, and immediate. You need practices that test the truth of your sujood in real life, not only in the moment of feeling. Start tonight with one honest sujood. Do not try to sound beautiful. Do not hunt for tears. Do not wait for a feeling. When your forehead touches the ground, name the thing you are still trying to control. Say it plainly before Allah. Then add one sentence. If this stays, you are still Allah. If this goes, you are still Allah. That practice cuts the hidden bargain. This week, keep a small test after prayer. Do not write what you felt. Write what weakened. Did your panic loosen? Did your need to force an answer soften? Did your anger cool faster? Ibn Arabi keeps bringing the seeker back to fruit, not flash. The sign of an opening is not how strong the moment felt. The sign is what kind of human being it quietly builds. Then guard one dry prayer on purpose. When sujood feels empty, do not rush through it. Stay a few breaths longer. Offer Allah a bow with no payment in it, no emotional reward, no inner proof, just presence. This may be the cleanest training of the week. It teaches your soul that Allah is worthy before relief arrives. That lesson can change your whole religion. Most people want prayer to remove pain. That is understandable. But the deeper mercy is greater than that. Prayer is not only where pain gets lighter. Prayer is where the self is put back in its right place. And when the self returns to its right place, many pains lose the power they once had. This is why sujood matters so much. On the ground, you remember a truth the world keeps making you forget. You are not the one holding everything together. You never were. The burden feels unbearable when you carry it as a small lord. It becomes bearable when you carry it as a servant under the care of the real Lord. That is not weakness. That is sanity. If your heaviness lifts in sujood, thank Allah, but thank Him with fear and humility. Do not grab the feeling too fast. Ask what it is teaching. Ask what it is undoing. Ask whether it is making you easier to guide, easier to soften, easier to free from yourself. That is the greater sign. And if the heaviness does not lift, do not turn away too soon. Some of the holiest prayers feel like stone from the inside. Some of the truest sajdas happen with no sweetness at all. Allah may be refusing you an experience because He wants to give you a cleaner heart. Stay long enough to let that possibility humble you. In the end, The goal is not to become a person who feels light in prayer. The goal is to become a person who belongs to Allah, whether prayer feels light or heavy. Then the sign has done its work. Then sujood has become more than comfort. It has become truth. So the real question is not whether something lifted. The real question is what in you is starting to bow. If this touched something real in you, write one truth you hide from Allah in sujood most often. Or write this with full honesty: I still come to prayer wanting relief more than surrender.